Thank you for listening to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast, available on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Stitcher. Also, please follow Matt's Movie Reviews on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Reddit, Instagram, and MeWe. And of course, be sure to visit mattsmoviereviews.net for the latest reviews, top 10 lists, and more. Now, on to the show.
You work here? No, Esther, I'm picking up your trash because I don't work here. Dad, don't forget you have a dermatologist appointment today. Also, can you deposit Mom's disability check? Growing up, I was told my parents were special. When I got old enough, I realized that's the word adults use when someone has a disability.
Who's that? He looks thirsty.
Look at her. The part of her brain that makes her horny is still working.
She just wants to give him something to drink. It's the worst that could happen.
I don't think they can take care of a child.
What choice do we have?
My mother named me after her favorite cartoon character.
Hi, Bambi.
Now you know what B is short for. But hey, at least we were happy.
I know B's childhood was somewhat non-traditional.
I don't want to do this anymore. You said it would be fun, and it's not fun.
You gotta learn how to drive.
I'm 10.
But that hasn't stopped her from enjoying it.
While everyone was busy worrying about my future.
B, I'm still waiting on those college applications.
Oh, I know. I was just trying to balance work, school, and caring for my parents.
Is that why you never want me to come over?
No.
It's okay. Everyone's embarrassed by the parents. Hi.
Come on in, man. With your grades and extracurriculars, you have a shot at getting into any college.
I can't.
You can.
No, I mean, I can't leave. My whole life, I've been torn between wanting to get away from my parents and wanting to care for them.
Maybe because you do everything for them, you've convinced yourself that they're helpless.
You spent a very long time worrying about other people. I think it's time to focus on you for a while.
We are a family. But one of these days you're gonna move out, get married. That's what kids are supposed to do.
A whole new world with an unknown future. Shoot for the stars, you'll hit the roof.
It's kind of a messed up saying.
Hello and welcome to the Matt's Movie Reviews podcast. I am your host, Matthew Pejkovic, and this is episode number 511. Releasing March 17 in theaters across the US is Wildflower, a coming-of-age story that stars Kiernan Shipka as B, a high school student navigating the minefield of teen life while also dealing with the highs and lows of living with her intellectually disabled parents. Also starring Alexandra Daddario, Jean Smart, and Jackie Weaver, Wildflower is a beautifully portrayed maid film that tackles its complex themes with conviction and heart. And joining me now is the director of Wildflower, Mr. Matt Smulker. Matt, I thank you so very much for your time today.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for having me.
So this is a movie that to me held a lot of personal relevance. So my older sister back in 1991 was in a car accident. And from that, she has severe physical and mental disabilities now. And I help my parents take care of her. I also have a son who's autistic. So I'm dealing with like kind of both sides of like the spectrum of in regards to raising and taking care of people with different intellectual and physical disabilities. So when I saw this film, I knew there was something I needed to watch. And what's really interesting about Wildflower, though, is that this is the first time you approached this story and this subject. So you had a documentary back in 2020, 2021, and it had to do with your niece, Christina, who essentially is kind of like the reflection of what Christina is in real life. And Christina's mother also has a cognitive disability. When you were making that documentary, did you have a feeling or did you know that a feature film about this story was something that could be a possibility as well, that was something that could be in the works for yourself in the future?
I wish I could say I did. I really didn't. I was pretty focused on telling their story, and it didn't really dawn on me, to be honest. But it wasn't until I was chatting with my screenwriter, Jana Savage, and we sort of thought about this and how, documentaries are pretty limited in terms of their audience. And so we talked about how this is such a unique story, and possibly through a more comedic lens, we might be able to kind of make it more accessible in many ways.
When adapting a documentary feature or the story from that into dramatization, what type of approach do you take in regards to that? Because you said before you want to go kind of like more in a kind of comedic aspect, and not to say that the film is a comedy, there are funny parts, but there's other elements to it as well. But when you decide to adapt that, how do you approach it? What type of philosophies do you have in adapting a work that you did before into a dramatization, especially in regards to how you want to present these characters who, although are not exactly like the people in real life, very much are reflections of these people in real life?
Yeah, I like that word you're using, reflections. I also would say that they were really, truly inspirations for. So I think that part of what allowed me to do it was this idea that we weren't recreating the documentary, and each and every one of these actors brought their own stuff to the roles and really made them their own. And so we had these characters, but it was really kind of a launch off point. And I like the idea of it as a reflection, but I think that it's less maybe a direct reflection and more an inspiration.
I want to talk about the Kiernan Shipka in her role as B. And I had in my notes when I wrote down, this character has got moxie. She's got like a thing to her, right? And I think what is really what you really tapped into is that when children grow up in the world, and something I can really relate to, when children grow up in the world where in their families they have people who might have disabilities, whether they be of the mind or physical or what have you, they grow up really fast. They learn a lot of things about life because I think what sometimes they are exposed to is the fragile mortality that we have in our world. Sometimes something can happen where someone can get a knock on the head or hit their head or can be born with some type of a disability, and that really kind of wises people up. Is that something that you really put into consideration when putting B together? Because I know, of course, you had your niece to work on as well, but that idea that this girl, who's very much, although at the age of 17, 18, is very much not only a teenager, but in many ways, in a kind of way, a parent in a lot of circumstance.
Yeah, no, you hit it on the head completely. It's, moxie, there's strength, there's a, this idea that you're sort of wiser beyond your years, and this forced kind of, you're forced to grow up. I mean, in many ways, as I believe it sounds like you were. And I think when you're put in that position, whether you're I also hear about this often with people who are immigrants and come here, and their parents don't speak any English. They're forced to speak, and all of a sudden they're paying the bills. They're taking their parents to doctor's appointments. So I think that it's not just unique to B, Christina, I think that this idea that there are many kids in America, and it sounds like in where you're from, and where they are forced to kind of grow up quickly and live life a little bit differently than other kids. And so that was something that I saw in Kiernan very quickly. There's she's so poised. She has such an incredible intelligence. And I think, look, I don't know, did that come from her growing up on set at a very young age? Obviously she was in Mad Men, and is that where some of that came from? I have no idea, but I do know that when I met her, it was very quick, became very apparent quickly that she was going to be B. She was my first choice, and then meeting her, it just, completely confirmed it instantly. There's also, this idea that kind of you could drop my niece anywhere in the world and she's going to survive. I also got that sense about, Kiernan. It's like you give her $5 and you drop her off in some country and she'll be the mayor of it in, a matter of weeks. I mean, I think that that was really important to me, this idea of, survival and then there's a grace and an intelligence that I believe both people have, actually.
The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by TeePublic. TeePublic is the world's largest marketplace for independent creators to sell their work on the highest quality merchandise. With over 1.2 million designs, TeePublic is sure to have something you'll love. The Matt's Movie Reviews podcast is brought to you by Amazon. The world's leading online store, Amazon is your first stop to buy a wide range of products at competitive prices with fast delivery times. Amazon is also a world-class entertainment hub that includes Prime Video, Audible, Twitch, Amazon Music, and more. Sign up with Amazon today and experience the best in online shopping and entertainment. Please support Matt's Movie Reviews on Patreon. Get access to exclusive content, request movie reviews and top 10 lists, and help support my work. Please click on the Patreon link in the description below. The cast in your film is amazing. I mentioned some names of introduction. You also have Charlie Plummer, Brad Garrett, Dash Mahal, who's fantastic in the film, Reed Scott, so many great actors. But the person I think a lot of people are going to talk about, and the person that I wrote about a lot, was Samantha Hyde, who is just fantastic in this movie. She's worked in a couple of things before, short in the TV series, but this is like her first kind of like really standout kind of leading performance. I like the way that she described her character. I think I read it in an interview, a Cinderella in a sweatsuit. I think that was a really kind of a sweet kind of a way to really describe her. How did you find Samantha for this role, and how important was it that you wanted to have the representation from the intellectually disabled community to represent themselves in your story? Because I think it was really important that that casting really did reflect not only who her character is, but who she is as a person as well.
Yeah, it was critical. I wouldn't have made the movie without casting Sharon authentically. And so that meant a worldwide search. I think we saw people from Australia, we saw people from England, we saw people, literally from everywhere. And Samantha really stood out to me early on. My one concern about Samantha was, she was so young. I was like, gosh, is she, and so we did end up kind of putting a little bit of gray in her hair. And, that was my biggest concern, because her audition was incredible. When I met her, I flew up to where she lives, and I, we sort of sat down and talked about the character, and she too has such a high intelligence and really kind of connected to this role in a way that, I felt like very few could. And, but yeah, in terms of authenticity, I wouldn't have made the movie without casting this role. And I was so lucky and thrilled that I found Samantha.
I think what you done so well with Wildflower is that you showed the different generational struggles that different grandparents, parents, children have when it comes to when you have someone in your family that's dealing with a disability, no matter what disability it is. I think one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Brad Garrett and Jean Smart are having an argument in regards to their daughter. The debate as to whether she should be able to live her life as an individual, just like everyone else should, or whether she should be only kept under the confinement of her, kind of like her parents, kind of like eye. I think it's a really important issue to talk about, because I know with myself, like my wife and I, we talk constantly about what would our son be like when he gets older, right? Because we don't believe in such a thing as normal. But we also know that it's a big, bad, mean world out there, and people can really be assholes in regards to a lot of this stuff. How important was it for you to make sure that you showed the ripple effect of how one person in a family, and no matter how much they are loved and everything else, can have on everyone else? Because even though a lot of people might not want to admit it, there are sometimes stresses put on people and I wouldn't call it burden, but I would call it something like pressures put on people that are placed in situations like that. And at the end of it, it's like sometimes it's like putting iron to fire. The iron can either melt, or you can make it like a really sharp sword from it you could defend your family with. I think it's really important that you show that in the movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the major complexities that the movie attempts to sort of tackle and bring to light. It was very important for me to sort of dive into that, and that was what was sort of fascinating. And yeah, I know exactly what you're saying in terms of this idea of protecting. I have a daughter as well, and I think that in many ways, Bee's family, I guess they're very what's the word? There's an incredible amount of bravery to sort of allow them, allow Sharon to kind of live the life that she truly wanted to live. And look, that this is the same thing for my sister-in-law. It was like that's all she ever wanted, was to, again, that word normal, but in her mind, to be normal means have a job, live on her own with a husband and a family, and work, and not have to be sort of at home with her mother, which is sort of what I think initially that was always going to be the plan. So yeah, I think that it was definitely something that I wanted to explore and to sort of share with people, in a way that maybe they wouldn't have thought of or thought that some of these people would be capable of doing.
I think what's really important with Wildflower as well, though, is that there's a lot of avenues you can take a movie that deals with things that the Wildflower deals with, but this is a movie that doesn't stay in the sorrow. Laughter is really important to this film. Laughter is really important to this family. And it's something that's just like, and I know from my own experiences with my sister and my son as well, that I've had more laughter than tears. And I think that's really important. You can't be bogged down into any of the negatives. You've got to progress it. You've got to move forward. And you just have to be, I think like you said before, when it comes to the concept of normal, what your sister-in-law is looking for, what Samantha's character is looking for, is just to be and just to move forward and just to live. And I think that's what you have to do, really. And from that, you gotta laugh, you gotta share. I think the great Don Rickles says you gotta laugh, you gotta enjoy life, and I think that's something that's really important here.
I think so too, and to me, it's like it's hard to kind of, I don't know, it's like it's hard to have the tears without the laughs, and sort of vice versa. I feel like to sort of need that, and I certainly witnessed that with this family, and I agree. I mean, I think most families, you hope, I mean, can enjoy some of the laughter in life. I mean, we certainly need it.
What type of feedback have you gotten from families like mine, and when it comes to not only the stories themselves, but how important is it to have that kind of, I don't like using the word representation because I think it's just being used so much, but just at least to show something that we can kind of relate to, because, my parents, especially whenever there's any time there's a movie or a TV series that kind of deals with issues that they're dealing with, they're curious and they watch, and sometimes it doesn't hit where they are. Sometimes they don't like it. I think a movie like this really does, for me especially, really does hit that perfect sweet spot. Have you gotten like great feedback as well from other people when after they watch your film?
Well, it's coming out on the 17th, so not a ton of people have seen it. But yeah, I would say, for the most part, people who have seen it seem to be responding to it positively. And but yeah, I don't know. I'm anxiously awaiting the feedback. That'll be soon.
Well, look, I can tell everyone right now, for someone who has kind of experience with some of the stuff that your characters have in Wildflower, it's a movie that I can really recommend for people. I think I can really recommend the authenticity, and I can recommend the heart, and I can recommend the conviction of the film. And also just as a performance piece, I think the acting in it is just spectacular. And for everyone out there listening, March 17 in theaters, make sure you watch this film in theaters as well. I can't stress that enough. I know it's coming out in digital later, on the 21st, but I want people to watch this in theaters as well because it's a really great film to watch on a big screen because we need to watch more character-driven movies about families just like this and about characters like this. And Matt, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for your movie, and it's been a pleasure to talk to you. I hope we can do it again in the future.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'd love to.
Thank you for watching the Matt's Movie Reviews channel. Please subscribe for more reviews, podcast interviews, and exclusive content. Also, if you would like to request a review and support my work, please join my Patreon via the link in the description below.